Hey everybody, it's William Jones, the founder of Jewelry Sales Academy, and today I want to go over a topic, and it's a multifaceted topic, but it's a topic that we get a lot of questions about. And it's all about clienteling. You hear this a lot, and people go and they're asking, hey, what do I do to get my staff to clientele? What do I do for to get this person to clientele? How do I teach that? And I want to take almost a completely reverse approach. And I want to talk to you first about the customers walking through the door and really what we're trying to do with clienteling and defining that and then go from there. So the first thing, let's go through here. Why do businesses want clienteling to take place? Okay. Realistically, it's to sell more. All right. So to sell more, and again, my whiteboard's always more for me than it is for you, just to keep me on task. But to sell more jewelry, there's a couple things that we can have. We can either have more customers. All right, so we can have more customers, or we can have higher sales. Okay, so this is what we're actually trying to do with clienteling from a business perspective, is we're trying to get our sales associates to bring in more customers and then sell them something that's at a higher ticket, or bring in a higher quantity of customers, and in turn that brings your sales. So what you're really trying to do, and what most people are really mentioning by clienteling, is simply just marketing. And I'm going to go through this a few different ways, but the first thing about this is when we're going through here, and what we're seeing in the market more than anything with different stores and things like that, is you're not thinking about this from a logical perspective. You're just thinking of this more of, okay, I'm going to clientele and these two things are going to happen. And we see this in a lot of jewelry stores too, is that we're there, whether you're an owner, you're a manager, or anything like that, a customer comes in and we think, we've got to sell them something every single time, no matter what that product is, no matter what that price point is, no matter what anything is. And that's what we see a lot. Well, if I don't have this, or if I don't sell this, and I'm not going to sell that customer coming through there. But let's go through this. How does clienteling do these things right here? It does it from relationships, all right? So what I'm going to talk about from here is breaking down this. These are our goals: to sell more and bring in either more customers or sell higher ticket items to our customers that are already coming in. And so we do this through relationships. We do the same thing in marketing. And I want to lay this out here. Think about just base level relationships of how you meet friends, or what your friend group actually looks like. Okay, so think about it this way. When I was first starting when I was a kid working in a jewelry store, I didn't know many people who really collected jewelry or ran jewelry stores or anything else. Why is that? Well, it's because think about me in high school. How many people was I actually around? What did my group look like in high school? Was it jewelry owners? No. Was it jewelry collectors? No. Was it business owners? No. It's because I was myself subjected into an environment where the people that I was around and the people that I was creating relationships with brought more people in that same environment. So think about that. Like if you're in high school, all right, so this is you, and this is how a network works right here, is that this is me right here. All right, so I'm in high school. I'm in this box right here, all right? And so there's all these people in this box of my environment that I'm around. And what's going to happen is that I meet this person, all right? Let's say this person plays football, okay? What other types of connections is that person going to bring me? Probably other people that play sports or something else, but they're also in this environment. So by networking in this environment, am I helping bring sales into the jewelry store? No, because specifically, I'm not exposed to clients. I'm not exposed to the customers. I'm not in this area where networking goes through. And so think about this. You're able to clientele and build relationships with the people that you're exposed to in the environment that you're around to. And so let's go back from here though, is that now let's put me in a jewelry store, okay? So if I have a jewelry store and I am now in this jewelry store. So let's say this big box is the jewelry store. This is me. Outside of this box is everybody that's involved with jewelry. All right, so now I'm in a better situation because now I'm around salespeople, I'm around managers, I'm around other people that are going through here. And so as I'm in this box and I'm interacting with more and more people in jewelry, what's going to happen when I'm become really good friends with one of the top salespeople in this company? Okay, they're going to introduce me to some of their collectors, some of their customers, and then what's going to happen from there? These people are going to help me build relationships with people who are applicable to our business outside of this location. And so this is how you see a network grow, and this is actually how clienteling works. Clienteling cannot work just by maintaining these relationships in the store. It has to happen by going out and meeting other people that have similar like-minded interests that go through here. Now, I'm going to get into this a little bit more deeply. And this is the part that is kind of controversial to a lot of people, because let's say this is the door to our store. So we're attracting people in out of this industry. On this side is the low end, all right, and this side is the high end. All right, this is what we want our associates and we want our people in this business to be associated with, over here on this high end side. All right, it's fair to say that if we spend all of our time over here on this lower end people in building relationships on here, we're not going to create the same amount of sales volume that goes through there. Okay, and I want you to think about this. I always try and give metaphors or different ways to think about this. Let's say that you're wanting to get in shape, but you only hang around people who only eat fast food. They never go outside. They only play video games. What are your chances of ever getting in shape? Very, very low. So we're going to take that same perspective and we're going to take a sales staff and we want them to sell high end. We want them to sell high revenue. We want them to have all these traits of this high end luxury store. So to do that, we have to try and get them around more of these things through here. Now, there's a couple things that happen through here. You as a business owner, you can control the flow of traffic coming through your store by two things: who you market to and who you inventory your store to. And that can go through display, everything else like that. So you have control over this. But on the flip side, what we're talking about on building relationships through here from the perspective of a salesperson and a manager in day-to-day operations, trying to create this person who's building high-end relationships over here, what are some things that we have to have just to build a relationship in general? Okay, one of the first things is that we have to actually have exposure to that higher end client. All right, so exposure is the number one thing to actually have the chance or the opportunity to build a relationship with a high-end luxury client. And this is one of the most simple things to fix, because realistically what this ends up happening to is we see a lot of stores that are around the $1 to $3 million mark, where the manager or that person who runs that store really is the only person with exposure in here, because they're afraid to let a sales associate talk to that person. They don't introduce their salespeople in that manner. They don't introduce their staff in a way to ever give them a chance of having exposure through here. All right, the next thing on here is how to have contact. So now that we've got exposure, we've got to have the ability to build a relationship with that person, to talk to that person, to reach out to that person. We have to have continued exposure to that person. And that's something we see a lot. And that's really a downfall in a lot of the clienteling tools that you see, is because, is it okay? Do you think this high-end client, let's just go through this. A high-end client, one of the people who owns a business in your local area or who is very involved in the local area, do you think they're going to be okay with just text messages? Probably not. Do you think they're going to be okay with just a phone call on an event? No, they're going to have the ability to build a personal relationship the same way they would with a friend or something like that. And what does that entail? It entails personal information. It entails giving somebody the contact information. We see a lot of times, once somebody has exposure and once they start building a relationship with the high-end client, and this is the thing that scares a lot of people, is that, I mean, we have a lot of clients that actually invite sales associates over to dinner. They do things outside of the store, and they're very, very good friends. And again, this goes back to that exposure risk from you as a business perspective, is because you're afraid that if you let this exposure happen, then you run the risk of losing this salesperson and losing this high-end client. And in turn, how many of these clients, high-end clients, are you losing because you're not allowing the exposure to take place in here? And let's go through this on the flip side of things. If you're not allowing this exposure to have happen, and you're only going through here and you're trying to reserve all the high-end clients specifically to the business because you're afraid of losing them, what are you doing with your sales staff? You're really pushing and incentivizing your sales staff to hang out and stay around low-end people, okay? Low-end clients. And low-end clients, what this happens, there's a certain return rate for a sales associate. If they have the ability to become friends with some of your higher end clients and build this relationship with some of these clients, what does that entail? Going out to events, going out to local events within your community, getting invited to cool different things where they meet more people. So the more exposure you're able to trust somebody with, the more chances you have of creating a friend group that goes through here that's not just yourself, that creates more of these in itself. Because if I don't allow this exposure to go through, this person who's working in this store is going to still want relationships with their customers, but they're going to be forced to do it in an area where they're more in this lower end area. They're still going to be making friends with your customers, doing things like that. But on this side, they're hanging out, they're contacting these people over here, which in turn drives more of this traffic into your store. And so this is a very difficult thing to grasp, because as a business owner, it really goes through of, okay, this is a really risky situation. But in reality, in the model of our business, is what we're trying to do is the same as a group of 3 people. How many people can 3 people know? All right. There's a certain set limit to that. How many people can 5 people know? Way more than that. So our whole business model is, how do we go from this same model with ourselves, of us being the person who goes and builds relationships with these high-end clients, to actually adding people on our sales staff who also do these things. So realistically, what you're doing is you're allowing these people to create a business within your business. And that's really what you're trying to do. And so think about this in reverse. If you're trying to build clienteling in your store, what you're actually trying to do is build relationships with your customers. Now, due to time constraints, due to staffing constraints, and how many people we have there, there's actually physical limits of how many relationships that our sales staff or even ourselves can actually nurture and make better throughout there, and how many people we can build those relationships with. So there's 2 big limiting things there. Is number one, let's say that an associate has the ability to have 5 relationships that are very, very strong in the company. All right. Now, where do we want those 5 relationships? Do we want them on somebody who's a very, very minimal jewelry buyer? Or do we want them with somebody who's a very big jewelry buyer who hangs around more people that are big jewelry buyers? That's really the question right there. But if we're not allowing this person in the company and giving them the tools and the traits and the training to build relationships and to consciously understand that these relationships build more and more, we're filling their time up with this. And so think about it this way, is that if I've got a staff of 5 people, all right, and I'm the manager, so I'm the only one here, and I'm the only one, and I've got 5 relationships with high-end jewelry buyers, all right, and then I've got the other ones through here, 4 more people. How much more volume will I do if I start introducing my sales associates and start allowing them to build these relationships with these high-end sellers? Exponentially. Now on the flip side, let's say that I'm the only one that allows this relationship. I'm the only one here. Everybody else is really just building relationships with the more low-end sales. What's the volume of our store going to look like? And then also, if I'm not allowing them the tools and the ability, I'm just giving them marketing tools versus relationship tools, then what am I doing? That's why a lot of people have problems staffing events, not staffing events, but getting customers into store events. That's why a lot of people, don't get these higher end salespeople. That's why a lot of people don't get salespeople that sell over $1 million, over $2 million, and then upwards from that. is because you're not giving them the key thing in jewelry, and that's the relationship. We always talk about this. It's easy to say this on the sales floor when it's just a customer and a sales associate in front of them and say, hey, you need to build a relationship with them and you need to follow up with them. But if you're not allowing that relationship to grow in the follow-up, you're never going to get what is actually clienteling going through there. So hope this video makes sense. If you ever need anything or would like to hear any more or have any feedback or questions for us, check us out at jewelrysalesacademy.com.